The tears slid silently down Bethany Harlow's cheeks as she stood before the imposing wrought-iron gates of Westmoreland Academy. The prestigious boarding school's ornate stone facade loomed behind her, its Gothic spires reaching toward the grey autumn sky like accusatory fingers. The cross, hanging from her neck, felt suddenly heavy, a weight that pulled her toward the earth as surely as her broken dreams. "I'm sorry, Miss Harlow," Headmistress Pruitt had said just moments ago, her voice as cold and unyielding as the marble floors of her office. "While your academic credentials are impressive, I'm afraid you simply wouldn't be a cultural fit here at Westmoreland." Those words echoed in 17-year-old Bethany's mind as she clutched her portfolio of drawings to her chest. Cultural fit. She knew what that really meant. Her modest clothes, her quiet faith, her small-town background, all marks against her in the eyes of the elite institution. "Lord," she whispered, her breath fogging in the chilly November air, "I don't understand your plan here, but I trust you have one." Her grandmother's weathered Bible verse came to her mind. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." A raindrop fell on her cheek, mingling with her tears, as if the heavens themselves shared in her disappointment. The scholarship to Westmoreland's prestigious art program had seemed like the answer to her prayers, a chance to develop her God-given talent while earning credits toward college. After her father's construction company had gone bankrupt last spring, followed by his heart attack, the family couldn't afford the art school she'd dreamed of attending. "Miss, are you quite all right?" Bethany startled, quickly wiping away her tears with the sleeve of her navy cardigan. A tall man with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair stood nearby, concern etched across his face. He carried a worn leather briefcase and wore a tweed jacket with elbow patches that reminded her of her father. "Yes, I'm fine," she mumbled, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "You don't look fine," he said gently. "You look like someone who's just had their dreams crushed, and I recognize that look quite well." He extended his hand. "I'm Dr. Edmund Sullivan. I teach art history here." "Bethany Harlow," she replied, hesitantly accepting his handshake. His eyes fell to her portfolio. "An artist, then?" She nodded, clutching the case tighter. "Not good enough for Westmoreland, apparently." Dr. Sullivan's eyebrows rose. "That's a bold statement, may I?" He gestured toward her portfolio. After a moment's hesitation, she handed it over. What did it matter now? The professor opened it carefully, his expression shifting from polite interest to genuine surprise as he flipped through her drawings. "These are extraordinary. The composition, the light, the emotion." He looked up at her. "Headmistress Pruitt rejected you." "She said I wasn't a cultural fit," Bethany explained, unable to keep the hurt from her voice. Understanding dawned on Dr. Sullivan's face as his gaze fell to the simple cross hanging from Bethany's neck. "Ah, I see. It's okay. I guess it wasn't meant to be." Bethany reached for her portfolio, but Dr. Sullivan held it a moment longer. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I've been teaching here for 23 years, and I've never seen raw talent like this. Headmistress Pruitt may run admissions, but I have a certain discretion when it comes to my special seminar students." He handed the portfolio back. "Would you be interested in attending my advanced composition class as a special guest artist? It meets after regular school hours twice weekly." Bethany stared at him in disbelief. "But why would you do that for me?" Dr. Sullivan smiled, a twinkle in his eye. "Let's just say I believe talent should be nurtured regardless of cultural fit." He glanced meaningfully at her cross. "And perhaps we both know that sometimes God's plans work in unexpected ways." For the first time that day, Bethany felt a flicker of hope. "I'd be honored, Dr. Sullivan." "Excellent. We meet Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 o'clock in the West Wing studio. Don't worry about the gates. I'll leave your name with security." He checked his watch. "I'm afraid I must run to class now, but I'll see you tomorrow afternoon." Bethany nodded. hardly believing what had just happened. "I'll be there." As Dr. Sullivan walked away, Bethany looked up at the imposing academy building again. It no longer seemed to be reaching accusatory fingers toward heaven. Instead, it almost appeared to be pointing the way. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered. "I still don't understand, but I'm listening." The next afternoon, Bethany approached Westmoreland's gates with trepidation. She'd spent all morning in prayer, asking for guidance and strength. Her mother had helped her press her best floral-patterned jumper and white blouse, and her father, still recovering but determined to support his daughter, had driven her to the academy despite his doctor's orders to rest. "Remember who you are, Bethy," he'd said as he dropped her off. "You're a child of the king. Walk like it." With those words echoing in her mind, she approached the security guard, a stern-looking man with a bushy mustache. "Excuse me, I'm here for Dr. Sullivan's seminar. I'm Bethany Harlow." The guard checked his list, nodded curtly, and buzzed her through the smaller side gate. "West Wing, 3rd floor," he said. Bethany walked across the manicured grounds, feeling woefully out of place among the ancient trees and perfectly maintained gardens. Students in expensive uniforms glanced at her curiously as she passed, her modest attire marking her as clearly as a neon sign would have. She found the West Wing and climbed the marble staircase to the 3rd floor, where light spilled from an open doorway. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The studio was spacious and bathed in northern light. 12 easels were arranged in a semicircle, and 11 students in Westmoreland uniforms were already setting up their materials. They all turned to stare as she entered. Dr. Sullivan looked up from his desk and smiled. "Ah, Miss Harlow. Welcome. Class, this is Bethany Harlow, a guest artist who will be joining our seminar this term. Bethany, please take the empty easel by the window." As she made her way to the indicated spot, she heard whispers behind her. "Who is she? What's with the get-up? Is she Amish or something? Guest artist? She looks like she should be cleaning rooms at my mother's hotel." Bethany's cheeks burned, but she kept her head high. She remembered her father's words and silently recited another verse her grandmother had taught her. "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me." A tall, elegant girl with perfectly styled blonde hair approached her easel. "That's Perdita Windsor's spot," she said, her voice dripping with affected concern. "She's just in the restroom. She's won the Westmoreland Art Prize 3 years running." "I'm sorry, but Dr. Sullivan specifically directed me here," Bethany replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The girl's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Camilla Blackwell-Jones. My father sits on the board of trustees." "And you are?" "Bethany Harlow." Never heard of the Harlows. What does your father do?" Before Bethany could answer, a statuesque girl with auburn hair strode into the room. She stopped short upon seeing Bethany at her easel. "Who are you?" she demanded. Dr. Sullivan intervened. "Perdita, this is Bethany Harlow, our guest artist this term. I've set up a new easel for you by the bookshelf. Better light for your particular style, I think." Perdita looked as if she might object, but Dr. Sullivan's kind yet firm expression brooked no argument. With a huff, she moved to her new position, shooting daggers at Bethany with her eyes. "Now then," Dr. Sullivan clapped his hands, "today we begin our most ambitious project of the term. You'll each create a piece on the theme of revelation, something that reveals a deep truth about yourselves or the world around you. This will be your submission for the Winter Showcase, which, as you know, is attended by representatives from the finest art colleges in the country." Bethany's heart sank. She hadn't known about any showcase. She wasn't even officially a student. Would she be allowed to participate? As if reading her mind, Dr. Sullivan added, "And yes, Miss Harlow, you'll be presenting as well. Your status as my guest artist makes you eligible." Camilla raised her perfectly manicured hand. "Dr. Sullivan, is that fair to those of us who actually attend Westmoreland?" Several students nodded in agreement. "Fair?" Dr. Sullivan's eyebrows shot up. "Art isn't about fair, Miss Blackwell-Jones. It's about truth and beauty. I'd have thought 4 years in my class would have taught you that. He turned to address the whole class. The winter showcase is in 6 weeks. I expect your absolute best work. Now, let's begin with some preliminary sketches. For the next 2 hours, Bethany lost herself in her work, sketching ideas for her revelation piece. She knew immediately what she wanted to create, a visual representation of her favorite passage from Ephesians. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. As the session ended, Dr. Sullivan moved around the room, offering brief critiques of their initial concepts. When he reached Bethany, he studied her sketches in silence for a long moment. "You're planning something quite explicit in its faith message," he said quietly. "Is that a problem?" Bethany asked, suddenly worried. Dr. Sullivan glanced around at the other students who were packing up their supplies. "Westmoreland has become increasingly secular in recent years. Religious themes aren't expressly forbidden, but they aren't encouraged either." He sighed. "I don't want to censor you, but I also don't want you to be subjected to ridicule." Bethany considered his words. "My father always says that we shouldn't hide our light under a bushel," she said. "I appreciate your concern, Dr. Sullivan, but this is the truth I know. This is my revelation." A slow smile spread across his face. "Then I look forward to seeing it realized. Just prepare yourself. Not everyone will understand." As Bethany gathered her things, Perdita approached, her elegant features arranged in a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "So, Bethany, where do you normally go to school?" "I'm homeschooled," Bethany replied honestly. "My mother teaches me." Perdita exchanged glances with Camilla, who had sidled up beside her. "How quaint. And what's your piece going to be about? Butter churning? Barn raising?" A few students nearby snickered. Bethany felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her voice level. "It's about grace." "Grace?" Perdita's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. "Like ballet?" "No," Bethany said simply. "God's grace." The snickers turned to uncomfortable silence. Perdita's smile became a smirk. "Oh, you're one of those. Well, that explains the—" She gestured vaguely at Bethany's modest attire. "One of what?" Bethany asked, though she knew exactly what Perdita meant. "You know, Bible thumpers, holy rollers." Perdita's voice dripped with disdain. "How perfectly provincial." Bethany felt a flash of anger, quickly followed by sadness. She thought of how Jesus had been mocked and still responded with love. "I'm sorry you feel that way," she said quietly. "I hope my work might show you something different." "I doubt it," Perdita replied, turning away with a dramatic flip of her auburn hair. "Come on, Camilla, we'll be late for equestrian." As the two girls sashayed away, a slight young man with wire-rimmed glasses approached Bethany. "Don't mind them," he said. "They're like that with everyone who isn't in their circle." "Thanks," Bethany said, grateful for the friendly face. "I'm Bethany. Nathaniel Winslow," he replied. "But everyone calls me Nate." He nodded toward her sketches. "I think your concept is fascinating. I've always been interested in religious iconography, from an artistic perspective, of course." "Are you not religious yourself?" Bethany asked. Nate shrugged. "My parents are Christmas and Easter Episcopalians. I'm more of an aesthetic appreciator," he smiled sheepishly. "But I respect people who have genuine faith. It must be nice to be so certain about something." Bethany returned his smile. "I wouldn't say I'm always certain. Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting even when you don't. That's actually pretty profound." Nate looked at her with newfound respect. "Would you like me to show you around the campus a bit before you go? The architecture is quite spectacular." "I'd like that," Bethany said, feeling that perhaps she had found her first ally at Westmoreland. Over the next few weeks, Bethany settled into a routine. Tuesdays and Thursdays were devoted to Dr. Sullivan's seminar, where she worked diligently on her revelation piece. The other students largely ignored her, with the exception of Nate, who had become a friendly acquaintance, and Perdita and Camilla, who never missed an opportunity to make some snide remark about her faith or her background. Bethany's painting was coming along beautifully. She had decided to create a triptych, 3 panels that together would tell the story of grace. The left panel depicted humanity's fallenness, the middle showed the sacrifice of Christ, and the right panel illustrated redemption and new life. She worked in a style inspired by the Dutch masters she loved, with dramatic lighting and rich symbolic details. At home, things were improving too. Her father was getting stronger, and through a connection at their church, he had found part-time consulting work that allowed him to contribute to the family's income while he recovered. Her mother had started selling her handmade quilts online, which brought in a bit more. They still struggled, but Bethany could see God's provision in these small blessings. One Thursday in mid-December, as the winter showcase approached, Bethany was so absorbed in the fine details of her painting that she didn't realize Dr. Sullivan had dismissed the class until the room had nearly emptied. "It's remarkable," came a voice beside her, making her start. Nate stood there, gazing at her nearly completed triptych. "The technical skill is obvious, but it's more than that. It feels alive somehow." Bethany smiled. "Thank you. That means a lot." "I've been meaning to ask," Nate said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Would you be willing to help me with my piece? I'm struggling with the lighting, and you seem to have mastered it." "Of course," Bethany replied. "I'd be happy to." As they worked together on his painting, Nate asked her questions about her technique, which led to questions about her inspiration, which inevitably led to questions about her faith. "So you really believe all of it?" he asked, as she demonstrated how to create the effect of divine light breaking through clouds. "The miracles, the resurrection, all of it?" "I do," Bethany said simply. "But it's not just about believing facts. It's about knowing God personally." And Nate was silent for a moment, watching as she added a touch of white to his canvas. "My grandmother was like you," he said finally. "She had this peace about her, even when she was dying of cancer. She would tell me Jesus was right there with her." His voice cracked slightly. "I always wished I could see what she saw." Bethany put down the brush. "You can," she said gently. Nate shook his head. "I'm not sure it works that way. For you and my grandmother, maybe. But for me?" He gestured helplessly. "I've never felt whatever it is you feel." "Faith isn't a feeling," Bethany said. "It's a choice to trust, to take God at his word." She pointed to her painting. "That's what this is about. Grace isn't earned by being good enough or feeling the right things. It's a gift." Nate studied her painting again. "I wish I could believe that." "You can start by just being willing," Bethany suggested. "That's what my pastor calls faith-seeking understanding." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Perdita and Camilla, who had returned to retrieve a forgotten sketchbook. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Perdita drawled, her eyes moving between Nate and Bethany. "Nate, darling, don't tell me you've fallen for the missionary's little helper here." Nate's face reddened. "We're just working on technique." "I'm sure," Camilla smirked. "Though I doubt Miss Holier-than-Thou has many techniques to teach." "That's enough," Nate said, with more force than Bethany had ever heard from him. "You don't have to be cruel just because she's different." Perdita's eyes narrowed. "Different? She's a throwback. I mean, look at her." She gestured dismissively at Bethany's modest dress. "She belongs in a museum, not an art studio." Bethany felt the familiar sting of their mockery, but this time something else rose within her, not anger, but compassion. These girls, with all their privilege and poise, seemed so empty inside. "I forgive you," she said quietly. Perdita blinked, clearly thrown off balance. "Excuse me?" "I forgive you," Bethany repeated, "for the unkind things you've said. I don't hold it against you." For a moment, Perdita seemed at a loss for words. Then her face hardened. "How dare you presume I need your forgiveness? Come on, Camilla. The air in here has become stifling." With that, she grabbed her sketchbook and stormed out. Camilla trailing behind. Nate let out a low whistle. I've never seen anyone stand up to Perdita like that. I wasn't standing up to her, Bethany said. I was offering her peace. Nate looked at her with newfound respect. You really do live what you believe, don't you? Bethany smiled. I try to. I fail a lot, but I try. And as they packed up their supplies, Nate hesitated, then asked, Would you pray for me, Bethany? The way my grandmother used to. Touched, Bethany nodded. I'd be honored. The night of the winter showcase arrived with a flurry of activity. The school's grand exhibition hall had been transformed into an elegant gallery, with the students' works displayed prominently. Important guests milled about. Trustees, alumni, representatives from prestigious art schools, and wealthy parents. Bethany's parents arrived, her father moving slowly, but insisting on being there for his daughter's big night. Her mother had made a new dress for the occasion, a simple but elegant navy blue affair that complemented Bethany's modest style while looking appropriate for the formal event. You look beautiful, sweetheart, her mother said, straightening Bethany's cross necklace. We're so proud of you. No matter what happens tonight, her father added, remember that your worth isn't in their approval. It's in who God says you are. Bethany hugged them both. Thank you for everything, for supporting me, even when it meant driving me here twice a week. Her father winked. Consider it part of your homeschool physical education. Now where's this masterpiece of yours? They made their way through the crowded exhibition hall to where Bethany's triptych was displayed. Already, a small crowd had gathered around it, murmuring in appreciation. It's exquisite, said an older woman in an expensive-looking suit. The technique is reminiscent of Rembrandt, but the composition is entirely original. Who is the artist? Asked a distinguished gentleman. One of the seniors. Actually, she's not even a Westmoreland student, someone else replied. Some kind of special guest artist, I heard. Bethany hung back, watching people's reactions to her work with a mixture of nervousness and gratitude. This was what she had prayed for, not recognition for herself, but for her message to be seen and felt. Dr. Sullivan appeared at her side. Your piece is creating quite a stir, he said, his eyes twinkling. Several of the college representatives have been asking about you. Bethany smiled. I'm just glad people are looking at it. More than looking, Dr. Sullivan assured her. They're experiencing it, which is what true art should accomplish. He gestured toward the crowd. Why don't you go speak with them? An artist should be able to discuss her work. Taking a deep breath, Bethany approached her painting, where a small group had now gathered, including several students and what appeared to be art school representatives. Ah, here she is, Dr. Sullivan announced. Ladies and gentlemen, the artist herself, Miss Bethany Harlow. The crowd turned to look at her, surprise evident on many faces. She could hear the whispers about her age, her modest appearance, the cross around her neck. Miss Harlow, said a woman with a badge identifying her as a representative from the Rhode Island School of Design. Your technical skill is remarkable, but I'm particularly interested in your thematic choice. Religious art is somewhat uncommon among artists your age. That's because I wanted to share something real, Bethany explained. Something that matters deeply to me. And what exactly is the message? Asked another representative, his tone somewhat skeptical. Bethany turned to her painting. It's about grace. The left panel shows our broken condition, all the ways we fall short and hurt ourselves and others. She moved to the middle panel. This center image represents sacrifice and forgiveness, specifically Christ's sacrifice that bridges the gap our failings created. She gestured to the right panel, and here is the result. New life, restoration, purpose. It's beautiful, came a voice from the back of the group. Nate pushed his way forward, his own showcase piece conspicuously absent. I was going to present tonight, but after seeing Bethany's work, mine felt hollow. He turned to Bethany. You were right about what you said, about faith being a choice. From the corner of her eye, Bethany noticed Perdita standing nearby, her expression unreadable as she stared at the triptych. The RISD representative handed Bethany her card. "We would be very interested in seeing your portfolio, Miss Harlow. Your perspective is refreshingly authentic." As the crowd dispersed, Perdita approached, alone for once without Camilla shadowing her. Her usual confidence seemed diminished. "Your painting," she said quietly. "The figure in the middle panel, the one reaching down from the light." "Yes?" Bethany prompted. "He looks like my grandfather." Perdita's voice wavered. "He was the only person in my family who ever really saw me. He died when I was 11. He used to read me Bible stories." Bethany hadn't expected this vulnerability from her chief tormentor. "I'm sorry about your grandfather." Perdita nodded, her eyes still fixed on the painting. "He would say that God sees me the way he did, but after he died, I stopped believing that." She finally looked at Bethany. "Your painting made me remember." Bethany felt a surge of compassion. "He does see you, Perdita. God, he loves you." To Bethany's astonishment, tears welled in Perdita's eyes. "I've been horrible to you." "It's forgotten," Bethany assured her. Perdita wiped quickly at her eyes. Would you tell me more about this? About Grace? Not tonight, but maybe sometime." "I'd love to," Bethany said sincerely. As Perdita walked away, Dr. Sullivan approached again. "Well, that was unexpected," he said with a smile. "Though perhaps not entirely." "What do you mean?" The art professor's eyes twinkled. "When I saw your portfolio that day at the gates, I knew you had a gift. But it wasn't just your technical skill that impressed me. It was the spirit behind your work." He nodded toward where Perdita was now speaking with Nate, both of them gesturing toward Bethany's painting. "Art can change people, Bethany. It can open hearts that words alone cannot reach." "It's not my work doing that," Bethany said humbly. "It's God working through it." "Perhaps," Dr. Sullivan agreed, "but he chose to work through you." He handed her an envelope. "This is for you." Bethany opened it to find an official Westmoreland Academy acceptance letter. "I don't understand. Headmistress Pruitt said—" "Headmistress Pruitt has been overruled," Dr. Sullivan explained. "The Board of Trustees was most impressed by the reception your work received tonight, particularly from the college representatives. They've authorized a full scholarship for you to join us for your senior year." Bethany stared at the letter in disbelief. "But what about the cultural fit?" Dr. Sullivan chuckled. "It seems the culture here might benefit from a bit of divine illumination." His expression grew more serious. "The truth is, Bethany, Westmoreland was founded as a Christian institution over 100 years ago. Somewhere along the way, that heritage was set aside in favor of prestige. Perhaps it's time to remember our roots." As Bethany tried to process this unexpected turn of events, her parents joined them, and Dr. Sullivan explained the situation. "It's entirely your decision," her father told her. "We'll support you either way." Bethany looked around the exhibition hall, at her painting that had sparked so many conversations, at Nate and Perdita still discussing it intently in the corner, at the other students who were now looking at her with curiosity rather than disdain. "I think," she said slowly, "that this is where I'm supposed to be. Not because it's prestigious, or because it will look good on college applications, but because this is where God has opened a door." Later that evening, as her parents drove home, Bethany gazed out the window at the stars shining brightly in the winter sky. 6 weeks ago, she had stood crying outside Westmoreland's gates, feeling rejected and lost. Now she understood that God had a purpose far beyond what she could have imagined. Her rejected application hadn't been a closed door after all. It had been the beginning of something greater, a chance not just to develop her art, but to share the light she carried inside. As if reading her thoughts, her father reached back and squeezed her hand. "Remember, Bethy, sometimes the things that look like rejections are actually God's redirections." Bethany smiled, thinking of Nate's newfound curiosity about faith, of Perdita's unexpected vulnerability, of Dr. Sullivan's revelation about Westmoreland's forgotten heritage. "It reminds me of that verse Grandma always quotes," she said. "And we know that all things work together for good, to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose." The cross around her neck no longer felt heavy. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful testimony isn't in grand declarations, but in simply being faithful where you're planted, even when that spot is outside the gates you long to enter. "I can't wait to see what he does next," Bethany whispered, her heart full of gratitude and wonder. Her father smiled back at her through the rearview mirror. "Neither can I, sweetheart. Neither can I.